Greetings. My name is Rob Hotep, broadcasting on behalf of 13 scienceastrology.com. Coming back at you with another episode, coming back at you with another segment. How is the listening family today? Me, myself, doing good, doing great, working, staying diligent and vigilant. On this particular episode, I'm going to talk about Leviathan. Going to talk about Leviathan. This is a very important figure when it comes to the occult. Leviathan is definitely an entity that any occultist, any magician needs to understand. You need to understand this entity in and out. Leviathan is used in religion. Leviathan is used in Satanism. I'm going to cover Leviathan, of course, from the middle path perspective, which is I'm not a Satanist and I'm not religious. Because a Satanist is just as religious, a real life Satanist is just as religious as somebody that's religious. Because when they look at these deities, especially Leviathan, they have 7 main deities they use in Satanism, and Leviathan is one of them. Each deity in Satanism is associated with the different devils, the 7 devils like lust, greed, and envy. And in Satanism, Leviathan is represented by envy. Leviathan is ruled by the water. So the envy is part of our nature, which is because envy is a deep emotion. It's a deep energy. Envy is basically when you're not jealous of a person. It's not really directed at a person. Envy is when you don't want to see people get to where you're at. It might be basically based on where you're at. Like you might not want to see people get to where you're at. Or envy can be when you want to block a person from getting somewhere. You might not be there, but you want to block them from getting there. So envy is a really deep emotion. It's a really deep energy. And this is what Leviathan is associated with when you study Satanism. Now, before I really get into the meat of the video, I just want to kind of break down why I'm doing a video on Leviathan. And the reason why I'm doing a video on Leviathan is because of the fact of what Leviathan represents. Leviathan represents a form of a spell or a form of a hex that has been put on humanity through this entity. You see, when you start talking about the elite and the powers that be, and people, they get mad at me because when I talk about the elite and the powers that be, they get mad because I really don't put a particular person on these forces that are controlling the world. And people think that's mythology, and they think that's spookism, and they think that's not factual. But you have to understand that the people that run the world study the occult, and they use certain deities, certain entities to cast spells. And Leviathan is one of the key entities outside of Pluto. Leviathan is one of the key entities. There's a few others like Behemoth, and there's a few others, Azazel. But Leviathan is one of the key entities that is used by the elite to control, to rule, to govern. So when you start talking about the fall of the elite, the first thing you have to realize is that if something was to happen to every single person that most people think is the elite or the Illuminati, like most of the people that they associate with the Illuminati, if something was to happen to every single last one of those people, the Illuminati would still, or the so-called Illuminati, because I have my conflicts with using that term, but the so-called Illuminati, if that's what you want to say, who rules the world, that's what you want to agree with, they would still rule. The elite would still rule. Reason being is because the universe is not a respecter of persons. I know that's hard to understand, but the universe only responds to commands. The universe operates just like a computer. You give it a command, it responds. The computer doesn't care if you're giving it a command to blow something up, or if you're giving it a command to send an email off to somebody that's going to be enlightening and healing to them. The computer doesn't care about that. The only thing the computer cares about is the fact that you give it a command. And this is how deities work in the occult. So Satan is the thing they don't understand is that these deities don't have control over them. See, Satanists, they study Leviathan, and they study Leviathan from an aspect of the way Christians, some Satanists, I'm not saying all of them, but they study Leviathan from an aspect of how Christians study God. And they look at it like these entities have power over them. Lust has no power over you. Envy has no power over you. Greed has no power over you. These are energies that you have and you were born with that you are supposed to use to help it to work for you. So the reason why you want to study Leviathan is because you want to study how they control things here in this matrix, how they rule over us here in this matrix. They use unseen forces to rule over us. You see, they don't use seen forces. They don't use the known. They use the unknown to rule. And many times the people that are sitting in the seats of rulership don't have as much knowledge and wisdom as the original casters of the spell. That's right. Some of the so-called elites that you see sitting in particular seats of power and positions of power, they're not casting spells. They're not, some of them aren't even working with these particular entities. There were pacts established with these entities by the ancestors of the elite. The old occultists back in the 1800s, they set up pacts and basically set up agreements with these different occult entities so that they could work with them, so that they could use these entities to cast a spell. See, Leviathan, when you break down the word Leviathan, Leviathan goes into actually two entities, and I'm going to help you to understand it. I'm going to help you to understand. Now, Leviathan, if you look it up, it's going to talk about a sea monster, and it's definitely a sea monster. And there's a reason why a sea monster is used, or a whale is used as the actual glyph for Leviathan. There's a reason for that. Leviathan is a concept. It's actually a concept, archonic concept that was used in the times of Atlantis. So when you hear people talk about Behemoth and Leviathan and things like that, it's not that the actual creature exists. Don't focus on the creature. Focus on the functionality of what they mean by Leviathan. Like, what is Leviathan? So I researched Leviathan. That's what I'm going to do, is give you a little bit of information on my research from Leviathan. So it's a sea monster on one level, but you got to go into the words, because that's where the meat lies at. That's where the truth lies at, is in the words. And when you break down the word Leviathan, you go into it, it's two words. There's Levi, and then there's Athen. Levi, and then Athen. Levi goes into the Levitical law. When you start studying about Levi, you're going to find out that goes into the Levitical law. Levi means to join together with something, to bind together with something. That's what Levi means. Now, when you look up the term Athen, or Athens, like Athens, Greece, or Athens, Georgia, when you look up the term Athens, you'll see that that means the law. That means mathematics. That means the calculation of things, the stars. So when you study Leviathan, beloveds, you're studying how you join together with the law, and how the law governs all events on this planet. See, it's taught in metaphysics that law governs all events. Universal law governs all events. In order for you to understand universal law, you must first understand the laws of Leviathan. You can't understand the laws of the universe and the cosmos if you don't understand the laws here on Earth or in the waters. You see, Leviathan rules over, or comes from the water. Leviathan was a sea monster. Very important here. Very important here. So you have to look into and understand why Leviathan is a sea monster. See, all law goes back to the seas. All law goes back to what's called maritime law. Then it goes back to the laws of the seas. And the reason for this is because the laws of the seas are the oldest laws, because the seas were in existence and civilizations in the seas were in existence before land. So before Baphomet and Behemoth, there was Leviathan. Leviathan is much older. Before beings came on land, they were in the waters. Even in the times of Atlantis, or really in the times of Lemuria, you still had a Leviathan. The name was different, but you still had a deity that was called upon to control and govern events here on this planet. Very important. So Leviathan means to go against the law. It means to, not to go against the law, but to join together with the law and to work with the law. So Leviathan is used by people in the occult, to cast spells. Very important, because every spell is rooted in a law. A spell won't work unless it's rooted in a law, and the only way to get out of a particular spell is to know the law. You have to know the law. And that's what people fail to realize. Even in the court system, they use the law. They use the law to control you. Even in the Matrix, everything in the Matrix is based upon UCC, statutory law, universal law. So the law is very important. In Baphomet, or Leviathan, excuse me, not Baphomet, Leviathan is used for that, to create, to bind you into this particular spell. See, this is why people can't wake up. Like, people wonder, why come, you know what I'm saying, like, people won't wake up on this planet and take back control from the so-called elites and all of that. The reason why you can't wake up is not people. You're up under a spell of an entity. And until you break that spell, you're going to be asleep. As long as you're religious and have programs running on you, see, religion is nothing but programs. And as long as you have these programs running on you, you can't do anything outside of the functionality of that program. And you know, anytime you have a program running on you, there's a programmer. So anytime the programmer updates the religion or updates the spell, like you got these different King James versions of the Bible, the updated version of the Bible, the updated New American Version. See, they update this information to put you back up under a new spell. And I know a lot of people out there, I have a lot of followers that listen to Dr. York. Not followers, but a lot of fans and subscribers that listen to Dr. York. And they're saying, they're probably thinking right now, you got all this information from Dr. York. He talked about the spell. No, this is what's going on in the occult, and this information was in the occult. And I'm not saying Dr. York didn't teach on it. He did a good job. He wrote several books on Leviathan. It's really good job. I think he wrote 4 books altogether on the topic. But I'm saying that even in his works, there's a lot more to it, because there are spells on top of spells running, or whatever. There's spells on top of spells. So even when you think you're free from religion, even when you think you're out the box, you still, a lot of times people still are religious. You still have that religious programming running on you, because the religious programming goes back to, I'm better. See, that's what it really comes down to. I'm in this religion, and since I've accepted this deity as my savior, or since I believe this particular way, I'm better than all the people that don't. That's the spell. See, that's when they got you. That's when the entities got you. That's when you know you up under the spell or whatever, in the programming. So this is a program that's running, and they use the law to basically control all events. And Leviathan goes into the law. So there's 3 aspects of the law that they use to control all events. See, all laws, most of the laws that we know about go back to, which is one of the first ways they use to control, goes back to religion. So they use religion to control all events. And the reason why I'm going to say that is because religion is based on the law. Why? Because you were taught in religion that you were born in sin, and shaped in iniquity. So that means you were born in sin. Like, you were born in sin. Goes back to the law, because sin represents condemnation, because of the fact that you were born in the flesh. This is why they say that people need a savior like Jesus, because of the fact that you were born in this flesh and you need a redeemer. And the fact that you were born in this flesh makes you a beast or an animal or a sinner. So therefore you are binded by the law. See how they get you with religion? So then these laws carry into, follow this now, these laws carry into marriage. One of the first things, you can't get married unless, if you have sex outside of marriage, you are what's called a sinner, and you've just violated the law. And even though you don't get punished nowadays, but this is how marriage got into the law. So now you have to, if you want to be legally married and have legitimate children, you have to be married. This goes back to the priests of Levi, that basically created these laws to control you based upon the laws of religion. So in order for you to go in business now, because the next spell is the laws of religion lead into the laws of money. Because there's many laws of religion. Prostitution goes back to the laws of religion. All that stuff, slavery, all the laws dealing with human trafficking, all that goes back to religion. Because the concept of human trafficking, slavery, and control, all of that goes back to religion. All that goes back to religion. So the second level of the spell is money. Money. And in order for you to make money, you need a business license. You need a permit. I don't care what kind of permit it is. In order for you to make it here, Whether it's a peddler's license, even just to sell something to somebody, you need a license. See, this goes into control. License, when you research the term license, this means you need permission to do a thing. So you need permission or a permit. Permission, same thing, to do a thing. So that goes back to the law. See how there's different levels of control. All of this goes back to the sea monster, Leviathan, because all of this is based upon religion. All of it. So religion is the first key component of the spell. Then you have money. And then lastly, but not least, sex. Because it all goes back together. Sex, which is the third level to it. So you have a lot of laws. And most of the laws that you look at go back to these things. Sex, which is the next law. So you have a lot of laws on the books when it comes to prostitution, when it comes to rape. Just a lot of laws on the books when it comes to sex and what you do with your penis, and sex outside in parks. So when most people violate these laws, they're punished on different levels. They're punished on different levels. And I'm not saying, because I want to make this clear, I'm not saying that the law shouldn't be on the books. I'm not saying that the law shouldn't be enforced. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying that if you're an occultist and you're a magician, you're going to have to learn the laws of Leviathan so that you can overcome them, the laws of the sea, maritime laws, so that you can overcome these particular spells that you're up under, so you won't fall victim to it. I'm going to explain to you the metaphysics side, because I'm just talking about the physical side, but I'm going to get into the metaphysics of what these laws do to you as well, because it's very deep or whatever. Just the concept of the law in general is very deep. So this is just the physical part, like the statutory law. Even physical laws go back to this deep high science. See how to use this deep high science of Leviathan, and then they dumb it down and bring it down to your reality. So then they got over 1 million laws right now, like just around the world. I mean, they have over 1 million laws, just different laws around the world. So, I mean, that's a lot. That's just letting you know that that's what they use. That's what they use. So then, okay, you have these laws now. So you can't go to jail really for having sex with somebody and you're not married to them anymore. So we understand that. So most people feel like, well, religion is not really as powerful anymore. I'm not religious. I'm free. But you're still up under a spell. That's the thing. You're still letting them control you because you're still up under the law, because they got you connected to the metaphysical aspect of the law now. See, first, you might have freed yourself from, okay, I'm not religious. I don't have to go to a pastor to get married, anything like that. I'm free. But then you're still up under the metaphysical aspect of it, because you still feel the guilt. You still feel the shame. You still feel the envy. You still feel the lust. You see, as long as they keep you trapped by those energies, then they have you up under the spell. So say, for instance, you might not be religious, but you have sex with someone. You have sex in a park. And you didn't get caught. You didn't get caught. But yet and still, you still feel guilty based upon what you did. Then you turn around and you go have sex with somebody that you're not married to. And you're not religious, so you're like, whatever. I mean, I had sex, I wasn't married to that person, whatever. I don't really too much feel anything from that. But deep down in your heart, you was raised a Christian or a Muslim or whatever. So you still feel a little bit of guilt. You still feel a little bit of shame. Like, shit, I really have been doing that. And the thing is that that's the programming, beloved. It's the fact, it's the guilt, it's the shame, it's the energies that you feel. See, you remember those things. Like, I don't know if you remember one of the last segments back, we talked about memory and how you can carry those memories over into the other world, into the other life with you, into your next life. That's what the vehicle that's used to carry over energies is, the memory. So you remember these things. You remember this guilt. You remember this shame. And now you up under this control now, because of the fact that you still have the software and the programs running. You still have the religious software and the programs running. So even though you're doing things, you're still getting punished for them. Even though you're not up under the control of the pastor or the priest, like directly, but you're still getting punished indirectly for doing things. You're still paying child support. You're still suffering from divorce. You're still suffering from the plagues of Leviathan. See, what I'm trying to point out here is that I'm not saying you should be breaking laws. What I'm saying is that the fact that the laws were written and created puts you into an illusionary spell, because of the fact that they created the laws. See, they use Kabbalah magic. See, they created these laws, and then now every time you break one, you're now guilty. So then this carries over, because you heard me talk about this in another video when I talked about how the elites can beat Karma. See, karma is based upon the law. Again, it's based upon the law. And many people, they think karma is this high concept and it doesn't have nothing to do with the matrix, but it has everything to do with the matrix, because this is how they attract you back, through the law. Through the cycles of reincarnation, you're attracted back to those cycles and through those cycles based upon the law and based upon your ability to follow the law or not follow the law. And we know with a million laws on the books, you're always breaking the law. You're always breaking the law. So what am I saying here? Basically, what I'm saying is that if you want to break free from the control of Leviathan, you want to break free from the elites, you must first know the law. You must first know the law, just like they say the truth will set you free. You got to know it first before it can set you free. So you have to know the law to see the game and to see the manipulation, to see how they're doing it, and not just know the law. Like, I'm not telling you to go get a law book and read each law. No, no, no. I'm telling you to research the history of the law. Like, when I say know the law, research the history of the law. I mean, you can get you a legal dictionary. I'm not saying don't do that. But I'm saying if you really want to understand this, research how religion and the law go hand in hand. Research that. And once you see that, you'll see how they got us. You'll see how they attract us back. And a person asked me a question. They were wondering, well, why come the elites don't get any karma or suffer from the things that they do as much? It seems like why are they just able to get away with all of this control? And it's because the universe is not a respecter of persons. They programmed the universe with all of these laws. See, they did that. See, they're master magicians. They created a reality. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. Based upon this Leviathan thing. They created a reality based upon all these laws. And laws were illusions, of course. And then now they're creating realities based upon people breaking the law. And they're constantly creating realities. But in the meantime, you have a group of people that know the true law. The only true law is universal law. And they know that. So that's the only law you really got to follow. You don't have to follow all the other stuff. The only law you have to follow is universal law. Now, I'm not telling you to be a criminal. Again, I'm just making sure I point this out here. I'm not telling you to go and do all the things you want to do to break the law because the law is an illusion. No, that's not what Ramhotep is saying. I'm saying that the fact that they wrote the laws and programmed the laws into the universe, they're putting people back into the cycles of karma, back into the cycles of reincarnation because of the guilt, because of the shame, because of the lust that the law creates. The fact that sex is considered evil and condemned, that creates lust. That creates perversion. That's what I'm talking about. Getting out of that. Yeah, you're perverted because of the fact that you feel shameful and guilty if you were to go out here and have sex outside in a park somewhere. You feel guilty and shameful behind that. And that's what, even when you don't do it, the thought of it creates karma. That's what I'm trying to explain to you, the very thought of, because you know it's wrong. In your mind, I'm saying. I'm not saying it's wrong for real or right or anything like that. I'm saying in your mind, you know it's wrong based upon the law. Because you know if you go out here and have sex in a park, you're going to go to jail. If the police see you. So that creates a prison, is what I'm trying to get you to say. When you talk about the prison planet, I believe we are on a prison planet. We're definitely on a prison planet. But the prison is mental. It's based upon the laws that they use to control people. And the people are ignorant because they know nothing of the laws. People don't research anything when it comes to the law. So you wonder why money controls you. You wonder why sex controls you. You wonder why religion controls you. It's because you have no control over yourself and you don't know the law. Now there's universal law. And I did a video on universal law, and you can go and research the universal laws. There's 7 universal laws, and there's actually 9. There's 2 hidden universal laws that you only can get in the mystery schools. But there's 7 universal laws. When you study the Kabbalion is letting you know and explaining to you the different universal laws, like the law of polarity, the law of attraction, the law of gender, the law of opposites. Like, these are different laws. There's 7 different universal laws, and I'm not going to go into them here because I have a video on that already. But if you want to master the spell of Leviathan, if you want to break free from it and you want to help other people break free from it, you got to follow universal law. You got to understand the law of opposites. You got to understand the laws of gender. You know what I'm saying? If you want to break free from this spell, you got to understand nature. If you want to break free from the spell, because people, they don't understand nature. Universal law is just natural law. That's all it is. It's the law that governs everything. Leviathan, as I was going into earlier, and I kind of missed this point, Leviathan is the law of the earth. Leviathan, on a metaphysical level, goes into the Kundalini. And I'm going to help you understand why. It goes into the Kundalini. So when you start studying Leviathan on a metaphysical level, this is the energy that is traveling through the caves and the caverns of the earth, the snake serpent energy. Leviathan is called Tanin in, or I'm sorry, Leviathan is called Kingu in Sumeria, and he's called Kingu in Sumeria, and he's called Tani or Apophis. There it is. He's called Apophis in ancient Egypt. So Leviathan is the serpent energy, or that dragon energy. When you hear about the dragon in the book of Revelations, that's Leviathan. That's the law. And that energy goes back into the Kundalini. And the Kundalini goes into what controls your sexual nature, you see, or the energy that's up below your navel. So if you notice, this is something very important. If you notice that I talked about the laws that Leviathan governs, and I told you the three main spells that they use and that they cast through Leviathan is, of course, the spell of religion, the spell of money, and the spell of sex. Those are the three spells that were cast based upon Leviathan. If you notice, all of those different energies go back to below the navel. Your sexual nature is controlled by your sacral chakra, which is below the navel. Money, your lust for money or your need for money, and just the whole concept of things and material things actually goes back to that same chakra. That's right. Sex and money go back to that same chakra. Religion. Religion is the force that they use to control your reality when it comes to sex and money. That goes back to the sacral chakra. See, religion doesn't take you to the higher chakras. Religion suppresses a lot of times the higher chakras. See, religion will only keep you on the lower chakra. Most people think, well, that's getting you closer to God, and God is supposed to live in the heart, right? Some people say God lives in the third eye, or wherever you think. Religion doesn't get you into the heart. It doesn't get you into the heart. It doesn't get you into the mind, because you're looking down on people. You don't love everybody because you don't love people that aren't believers in Jesus. You don't love people that don't believe in Muhammad. You don't love them. You can say you do. Oh, God loves everybody, and I love them. I love them the same, even though they're gonna get punished because they ain't in the church. And I'm not talking about your religion. Like, this is not trying to, like, I'm just keeping it real with you guys. Like, you're up under control too, because that's still the binding force of Leviathan is keeping you below the navel. Because even though you might not be partaking in perverted sexual acts, it's the thought that counts. It's the fact that you're suppressing them. And anything that you suppress is going to manifest itself, because you don't know universal law. That's why I try to tell people to study universal law, because if you knew universal law, you would know that I'm not supposed to suppress this idea or this thought. I'm supposed to express it, not suppress it, express it. What I mean by express it is, yeah, you might be lusting. I'm not saying go out there and have sex or go out there and have perverted sex, but you might have to do something to express your sexual energy. Dancing, music, listening to sexy type of music, because you're in a sexy mood. So you need to listen to some sexy music to express that energy, because whatever you don't express, you suppress, and that turns into a monster, which is Leviathan. That is the monster. So then this is why you hear about these people that are they're religious as hell, but they going out and having sex with little boys. They're going out and killing people and doing all kind of crazy little acts that atheists don't do. You always notice that the people that are religious do like a lot of the heinous acts. They're usually like, oh, he was a faithful member of the church and I didn't know he was capable of that, or he went to my synagogue, or he went to my tabernacle, or you know what I'm saying, or he went to my temple. I didn't know he or she was capable of that. It's always somebody that's religious, just like the girl that stabbed up the guy on television. It's always a religious person that does all these heinous acts. And you don't really too much hear about an atheist. Like, people talk about atheists, even a Satanist a lot of times. I mean, don't get me wrong, you have your Satanists that do stuff. I mean, I know about the ritual killings and stuff like that. But I'm saying a lot of times, though, most of the time, these were so-called God-fearing people doing this stuff is because they're suppressing that lower energy, that sexual energy, and it's turning it into a monster. Leviathan is coming out of you. This is how they do it, because you didn't master the Kundalini. And I haven't forgot my point. You see, all of this goes back to the Kundalini. Religion was put together to suppress the Kundalini, because if the Kundalini rises up, the snake energy, and you tame it, through studying the law, because you can't tame the Kundalini unless you know the law. So you tame the Kundalini so that you don't go out and make the Kundalini control you, but you keep control of the Kundalini. This makes you enlightened. This gives you the uraeus, the snake that comes out of your forehead that you see the Egyptians had the snake, and it came out of their forehead representing the third eye, or they call it the uraeus. This gives you the uraeus, or the enlightenment, the to be wise as a serpent. See, this goes back to the Kundalini and learning how to govern it and control it and make it raise up. So the only way to do that is to learn about the chakra system. So that's why they created religions, because they wanted to suppress all of this. They didn't want you to have mastery or feng shui over this particular energy. See, when you study feng shui, the Chinese and the Asians, see, they know, or the Bagua, they know that basically you're dealing with energy, and basically have control over that energy so that you could direct the Leviathan energy so that it can do what you want it to do. See, feng shui basically talks about how we know that there's energy out there, chaotic energy. It's called chaos. But the job of a god is to bring order out of chaos. So you call yourself a god or a goddess, your job is to bring order out of that chaos. You are God. See, that's the thing they don't want people to know. You don't have to pray to some god to create control. Like, all the gods go back to the particular beings that slayed Leviathan. Like Marduk. Marduk slayed Tiamat, which is dealing with Leviathan. You see, you had different beings that went to war. Like, say for instance, the god Ra, the sun god Ra, went to war with Apophis, or the snake, or Leviathan, every day. So the concept of God, or one who becomes a god, is one who masters that energy, one who masters the Kundalini energy so it doesn't control them. Say for instance, sexual energy can control you, because all sexual energy is what causes people to do all of these crimes. Say for instance, you want money, because this is especially guys. See, guys, they're guilty of this. You want money because you want to get more women. So you go out here and you start robbing people because you want to get more sex, because you want more women to look at you, and you want a nice car or whatever. So you go out here and you go rob people, which is breaking the law for money. But if you had knew about the science of Leviathan, the science of universal law, and the science of controlling the Kundalini energy, and you could have just easily breathed and raised your energy up here. You could have took all that sexual energy, that lower energy that's so potent and strong, and raised it up to the higher levels. See, it's not wrong with expressing yourself sexually. Like, we already talked about that. But I'm saying, if you want to get out of this, you have to learn how to control the Kundalini and raise it up so that it eventually activates the third eye. It activates the different chakras so that you become enlightened. See, this is what those particular people that wrote the law, they were Luciferians, and they were enlightened. They knew the law. They mastered the law. They wrote the law. So of course they knew the law, to the point where even some of the elites that are sitting in the seat of the particular deities and the particular gods that wrote that law, because God is a title, those particular guys that wrote that law, they don't even know the science that those particular guys knew. The elites that are sitting in the seats now, today, like the different politicians and stuff like that, a lot of times people call these people the elites. They got passed on wealth. See, that's what you got to remember. Inheritances and stuff, like, they got passed on, so they don't really know, like, what's going on, like, on a deeper level or whatever. So it's just a lot of stuff that people need to realize, man. Like, it's a lot of stuff people need to realize. So when you're looking at this spell, I mean, you have to master yourself. You have to master the universal law. You have to master your chakras. And then you will gain mastery over Leviathan. Then you will gain mastery over Kingu, over that particular energy that is everywhere, that rules the earth. Before you can start talking about the cosmos, it's just like they say, like, as above, so below. Like, you want to know universal law and you want to deal with the universe, but you don't have mastery over Leviathan, which is discipline. That's the first key. You're not going to ever get mastery over Leviathan if you don't have discipline. This is why Jesus called his followers disciples, because you need discipline. They were masters. They were studying their chakras, becoming disciples, mastering Leviathan, mastering the Kundalini energy and not letting it master them. So you have to do this. You have to gain discipline if you want to get back your state. You want to get back to the point where you're at. You want to be free. You want to get free from the elites. You want to break free from the control. You want your liberties back. If you want your liberties back, master the law. Master the spell. Undo the spell. Uncross the spell. See, if you want to get out of this situation, this is a deep spell. See, this is deeper than deep. Like, people study voodoo and stuff like that, and different spells they have in voodoo. The spell that they cast and they use with Leviathan, this particular monster, this sea monster, is deep. It's nothing to fear, but it's deep because it takes knowledge. Leviathan is not a fearful entity. Leviathan is an entity you get control over him by studying. See, wisdom, looking into the law, knowing the law. Because if you know the truth, it'll set you free. So that's going to do it for me. I thank you guys for listening and watching. I just really wanted to do a video on Leviathan because I feel like it's needed. It's the solution to help us to break free from the elites and from the powers that be. The powers that be are not seen. You talk about in the Bible, it even talks about we war not against flesh and blood. We war against spiritual wickedness in high places. So that's what Leviathan is. It's that spiritual. And Leviathan is not wicked. Again, it's just a potent energy, but it becomes wicked when you are not able to work with the energy. When the energy is not tamed in your vessel, that's when it becomes wicked. People commit crimes when the Kundalini energy is running rampant and barbaric. They become a devil. A devil is just basically, I'm talking about on a metaphysical level, a devil is just one who has no control over their Kundalini energy. That's all a devil is, or has no control over the way that this energy is flowing throughout their being in their vessel, and they don't know how to use it to attract. Like, your Kundalini energy is the basis of your being. And when I do my video on the children of the light, I'm going to talk about that because I'm doing a video on the children of the light. And I'm going to talk about how your Kundalini is the basis of attraction. If you knew your Kundalini enough, you could break free from the spells of Leviathan and having to go to work. See, that's a part of the matrix too. Going to work. I want to talk about that. People talk about, and that's a part of the spell too. People talk about a job. Job. People talk about working 6 days and being off 1 day. That goes back to the spell, because all of that, if you keep in mind, all of that's in the Bible. The concept of toiling. See, you had to go work for the Anunnaki. Here's the truth of it. You had to go work in the mines in South Africa, basically because of the spell, because you didn't know how to get free and take care of yourself outside of going to another being or entity to provide for you. They didn't want to teach you about the chakras and how to totally break free from it. So Marduk, he knew how to slay Leviathan because he knew the higher sciences. You know what I'm saying? He was a part of the white or black brotherhood. He was almost a 7th-dimensional entity, so he knew how to slay Leviathan. But I'm saying us, human beings, were created as lesser beings because they didn't give us everything. We only use 10% of our brain because of the fact that we weren't programmed to use 100%. So therefore, you can't break out the spell until you first activate every single chakra. Not just the third eye, every single chakra. And then there's even more work you have to do from there, because then you have to take the energy and spiral it back down once it's activated and bring that energy back into the heart. And this is how you break free. So just saying all that to say, study universal law. That's the first thing you want to do if you want to break free. And the second thing you want to do is, if you want to break free from the matrix, from the spell, or from the rulers, or from the elite, is to study universal law. Very key. But you want to get discipline. You want to become a disciple. You want to get mastery of yourself. People always ask me, well, how come my magic can't work? How come my spells don't work? How much discipline do you have over yourself? If the spell didn't work, they usually tell you to go and do something to discipline your inner being and then go back and do the spell again. So if the spell didn't work, you need to abstain from sex for 3 weeks and withhold your semen. Or maybe you need to abstain from food for 3 weeks because the spell didn't work the way you wanted it to work. The bottom line is to get your energy, your Kundalini energy, up under control so that it works for you. That's how easy it is to make it work for you, is just to have discipline. The secret to most people's success is discipline. No matter if it's a basketball player, a millionaire, a football player that made it to the pros, the secret to his or her success, somebody that made it on Dancing on the Stars or Basketball Wives or anything, television, even that, you still have to have discipline, work ethic to be able to make it. But not work ethic to where you become a slave and you working for somebody else and you don't really have a plan. But I'm talking about spiritual work ethic to where you learn how to work with your energy in the most optimal way. You working for you. That's how you got to look at it. I work for myself. You got to work for yourself by looking into your natal chart. You look into your natal chart, you're like, okay, I got to work this out. I got to work that out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to, if I'm supposed to be more so on this end of my natal chart, like I'm supposed to be more of a relationship consultant, say for instance, but then you really stuck on this dead end job. You know what I'm saying? Then you need to look into your natal chart and learn how to work with that energy that aspect of yourself and make the sacrifices and do the necessary things you need to do on a discipline level to get there. See, people always talk about sacrificing, but make the sacrifices of your own being. Sacrifice food, sacrifice sex, sacrifice your own energy. You know what I'm saying? So that you can get the things that you want. So it's the things you need. Those are the two components you need. You need discipline, and you definitely need a knowledge of these laws. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this video down. I hope you learned something. I hope this video helped. Thank you guys for listening. I thank you guys for watching. And until we meet again, I'll leave you in peace, love, light.